I would like to shift the gears a little bit over here. Emotional intelligence is nothing like Wi-Fi signal.
Being a cheerleader is not wrong at all. As a leader, I think it's important for you to fail.
You have these moments when you just want to run out and say, hey, I'm a total mess.
I try something called Ola. The more you know yourself better, the more it's easy to portray yourself.
The response to this could be something that people are going to remember you for.
The moment we can keep ego aside and bring in humility, I think life is better as a leader.
Life is better as a leader. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of our podcast, Big Gulp of Leadership. I'm your host, Deepti, and today we'll be diving into an extremely interesting conversation, emotional intelligence in leadership. Well, yes, I thought it's high time we speak about something more than just spreadsheets and KPIs. I think we're going to be talking a lot about feelings today. And who better to run us through this than Chetana Parashar, a leader who's seen it all, stayed emotionally intelligent through it, and has grown into the remarkable leader that she is today. So, welcome, Chetana, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I'm really glad that we're having this conversation, and I'm getting to have this conversation with you.
Great. It's great to be here too, Deepti.
All right. I think without any further delay, I would like to just dive into the conversation, Chetna, because I'm just worried someone from your team might just text you with, say, a very urgent but not so urgent kind of an issue. Well, diving right into my first question, Chetna. The word of today's conversation, emotional intelligence. Why do you think it's suddenly stealing the spotlight today? If you look at it, I think emotional intelligence is spoken at par with any technical skills for a leader, right? Why do you think it's becoming such a big deal in today's leadership, especially in the corporate world?
I love the topic, by the way, and it is a big gulp. The moment you said that, I felt like a big gulp going down my throat as well. But I think emotional intelligence is, I think it has always been an important topic. It probably over time, post COVID, because people stress so much on, the mental well being. It's kind of created so much more focus now. And I think it's super critical for leaders today. The work mindset has changed today. It's not about people coming to your job, like you said, it's not about achieving the KPIs and doing the spreadsheets, but it is about how you feel at work. People consider your office, your place of work as the next home for them. So, as leaders, it is so important for us to create that. Now, while I say that, I'm not being agnostic of the fact that leaders themselves are humans and it is difficult for them as well. But it does take that one step extra for leaders to be mindful. Employees today focus on psychological safety. There's so many big words that people use. I don't know how many are really words that most people understand, but they know that those are the important things. And trust me, building high performance teams today, for a leader, they have to be emotionally connected to their people. And that's how high performance teams are built. So, yeah, just my thoughts there.
Right. What I actually kind of picked from what you said is leaders are human. So I'm sure it's a challenge for them to kind of be emotionally aware, emotionally intelligent. I think I just have my next $1 million follow up for that. How do you think organizations can help leaders get better at it? Some kind of a secret boot camp?
Well, I think without denying the fact that most organizations now take one step extra, one step more to help leaders to that. So you will always see great leadership programs, you'll always see coaching, you'll always see trainings. But I think the important aspect is to have a leader's intent as an organization. It is important that the leader's intent is imbibed in the leaders today to run. It's not easy that every leader thinks alike. So, from an organization perspective, I think it is important that they know what is the intent. For example, at GSC itself, there is a very clear leader's intent. Everyone knows that they have to lead with empathy, drive with passion, and appreciate. These are so important words here. Important words like motivation, innovation, appreciation. These are things that is imbibed in the culture itself. So while I don't say that makes it easier for the leader to run their or do their job, but I feel it at least gives them a clear aspect of what can I look forward to or what is expected out of me. It kind of helps declutter a little bit of the leadership journey that one has. So, to go back to my point, I think it's really important that the organization sets an intent for leadership.
What I understand is, like you rightly said, I think leadership is also about, when you say emotional intelligence, it's also about leading with empathy, appreciation. So I guess it's all about making connections, right? So think emotional intelligence is nothing but like Wi-Fi signal. I think stronger emotional quotient and it's going to be stronger connections with your team. Chetna, speaking about connections, now I'll go back to being empathetic or leading with empathy. Well, I think the word empathy itself, it sounds very warm and fuzzy when it's in theory. But let's get real. Like, is it really easy to lead with empathy? Because it's just not empathy that you're showing here, but you also have to be fair and rational with your decision making. What are your tips or what are your thoughts on how any leader can balance that empathy and being rational?
I think the first point for leaders is how do they differentiate between empathy and sympathy? I think it's very important to realize that difference. Now, if I'm a person who is very moved by, everybody can have difficult times. So if I'm a person who's very moved by it, I would probably drive everything to do to help that person across. But a good leader will understand what empathy is. So it is really a fine balance between compassion and the right kind of decision making. So compassion with objectivity, I would say, is really, really important there. I'll give you an example. There are so many situations I've faced where an employee sits till the last part of the year end performance management. And it's a very real problem, let me
Yes.
tell you, Dipti. I've seen so many organizations face this problem where the entire year has been so good. The leader has been talking such great things because the leader wanted to just motivate that person to go till the fag end of the year with a lot of performance, right? But what was missed in that is the objectivity. Now, while it is important to show care, it is important to be with that person, it is also important to show the failures. It is also important to share the right feedback because that's the only way you're going to let that other person grow. Or else you are not driving growth of that individual, but you're just making that person's growth stagnant, which is where leaders, I think, leading with empathy really makes a lot of difference. Where you stand by your team, but also make sure that you're giving the right kind of direction in the same manner. So, how you pass that message is the importance of the leadership journey.
I think I totally agree with every single bit that you said because I think right now I understand leading with empathy is just like you're being a referee, but at the same time, you're being a cheerleader for your team, for your employee. I think it's just about doing it right. It could be challenging, but it's just doing it right and it's a win win situation, right?
Yeah. And I think being a cheerleader is not wrong at all. You have to.
Correct.
If you are not the cheerleader for your team, no one else can be. But you should be okay as a cheerleader that you cheer them even when they fail. There is why do you have to always appreciate when the entire task is done? There could be several parts of the task that went fabulously well, but understand action on what did not go well. I think that's where the empathy comes in a right way, right? That you appreciate and you celebrate the even the small wins, but at the same time the failures are discussed too, because without discussing the failures you don't know what better you can do. So yeah, cheerleading is important all the way, I feel, and
All
I'm driven by that.
and all the time. Yeah, right. Well, Chetna, I think we spoke about empathy enough. Now, I would like to shift the gears a little bit over here. I'm going to speak about something that's not spoken often and enough: the leader's emotional well being. Well, it's great that today, as an organization, we're talking about, how we should be leading with empathy, the employee's well being. Well, let's be honest, like you previously mentioned, leaders are human too, right? I'm sure, Chetna, there are a lot of times you probably feel like a duck that's calm on the surface but crazily paddling beneath, right? So, how do you, while doing all this crazy circus, how do you ensure that you're prioritizing your emotional and mental well-being? Secret leader spa?
Well, it's tough. It's not easy. I think for every leader, they have those days where today is not perfect. But how can I make it perfect for myself? So even if I have to take a step back, I think for me personally, what really drives me is to have a purpose for every day. And I personally am a person who is driven by grit, and my grit is happiness. So if I have to look at happiness in everything that I do, that's my purpose. Now, a bad day is going to come to you, but I find happiness even in the small wins that I've got, and I learn out of the failures that I had for that day. Now, I'm only human, all leaders are. There are going to be days that you're going to have failures, and I'm absolutely okay with that because you're not going to learn anything new if you don't fail. And if you are doing everything awesome every single day, there will be a point of time where you're just going to become complacent. You're not going to challenge yourself. You're not going to look for something more. You're not going to be able to inspire your team to do something else. So, as a leader, I think it's important for you to fail. And to maintain that balance, I feel it's important to be self aware that this is where I'm good at and this is where I need help. And hence, it is important to acknowledge that learning is an important part of a leader's journey. So I lay a lot of emphasis on that. I love to read books. As much as I get time, I take time to read books, take nuggets, write down important points. Sometimes the most simplest of sentence in a particular book can be life changing for you. So, I think the more leaders read, the more they know about things that is happening around, and that kind of ties back to being self-aware, right? And I always say this: I try something called OLA, and it's like saying hi, but if I have to just kind of expand the abbreviation, it is observe, learn, and ask. Why I say this is to be self aware, you have to observe people around you. You can't be self aware and not know what is happening around you. So, observe, you learn from that, and you ask important questions. So, there has to be an intent why you do that. And if you've learned that, the beautiful aspect of that intent, I think you have got one step ahead to being with your team closer or with your fellow leaders closer because you've observed, learned, and asked the right questions.
Well, I think, Chetna, my best pick out of whatever you said now, I think it's being self aware. I think nothing is more important than for any person to be self aware. So, that I think for any leader should be going on a to do list. Chetna, we've spoken about, self care over here, but there's just one more very, very challenging or could be even a scary word that I want to address over here today. And I'm very curious to know your thoughts: vulnerability. You feel that, you've been saying that leaders are human. Do you think every leader should show that vulnerability, that human side to everyone? Or you think it's just something that sounds so good on TED Talks? I'm sure, like you mentioned earlier, you have these moments when you just want to run out and say, hey, I'm a total mess, right? So, what is your take on that?
Isn't it tough to just say that word?
Absolutely.
I
I
take,
don't know.
there are these, and I'm sure everybody faces this. There are these very specific words, and it's an irony that vulnerable is a very difficult word to say. And the meaning is also difficult. It is, and I said this because leaders are humans. it's okay for them to be making mistakes. It's okay for them to not know everything. It is okay for them to say that today is not a good day for me. And it is amazing if you are being that authentic to your team and they believe in you for that. And that is an important part here. I'll tell you, in my leadership journey, I have had situations where I have taken up roles that I have never performed before. And I took it up because I knew I could do it. That's my confidence. But deep down, you have that vulnerable spot where you know that what if somebody else realizes that I don't know this job? So that's when I decided that what's the harm in just learning it from somebody else? For all you know, the junior most person in your team can teach you something amazing for that day. And it's enlightenment at that time, right? So through my journey, I have learned from my team members. And that's what I take absolute pride on, that I'm not here to know everything. I'm here to support, I'm here to drive, I'm here to inspire the team. But I completely acknowledge the fact that I'm not here to win it all. And I can only win it when I have people around me. So I think as leaders, it is really important to put our ego aside. I know ego is a big word, but the moment we can keep ego aside and bring in humility, I think life is better as a leader. Trust me, you can deal with a lot of the challenges that we see today with a lot of ease. It puts you at ease as a person as well. You can go home thinking today was a good day instead of thinking, what are the challenges that I had to face today? The calmness that it brings you, I think it's amazing. I've had many people who come up to me and say that, how can you be so calm in a situation like this? And I say, you know what? This wasn't my battle to win. And it's okay. I choose my battles. So I keep saying this all the time, and I think you've heard it. The rest of the team has heard it, that spend time on things that you know you're going to win. Every battle is not yours to win. So choose which battle is for you to win and work on the ones that you can do to the max that you can win. So don't spend so much of time in thinking what is going to go wrong, accept that there could be something that's going to go wrong. So I think vulnerability is really understanding those emotions very well. And you need to be absolutely secure to feel that emotional.
It's about not being embarrassed about your failures, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, there are times, even in my personal space, there are times when I've told my daughter, I'm going to tell you everything that I did, just so that you're going to learn from my failures.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, I guess. It applies over here.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. I mean, to my son, every time I speak, I keep telling him that it's not about being the first grade, the first rank in the class. It's not about winning every game you play.
Correct.
But it's important that you play. It's important that you enjoy the process of playing, because if you don't enjoy it, then you're not winning anyways, right? So
Absolutely.
I think the more easier we accept the emotions that we're feeling, again, it goes back to emotions, right? And for that, you need to be self aware. I think I'm going to use this word self aware several times through our discussions today, because that everything boils down to that.
Correct.
The closer you are to your inner being, I think it's more easier to function not only as a leader, but anything that you do at work, at home, anywhere. I think the more you know yourself better, the more it's easy to portray yourself.
Absolutely. So I think fantastic point made, Chetna. But then I would also like to make one point to the audience who's watching this podcast. Just today, or starting today, can you all just go back to your leaders and just ask one question? Are you doing fine? I mean, I think that goes a long way in building better connections because trust me, just how we are speaking today, leaders are human too. So they're just as human as you are. So please just make that one attempt to keep checking on them. Right? Back to you, Chetna. So now I'm going to flip it a little bit. We spoke about vulnerability. Yes, challenging, scary. I think that again, done right, is could be a power move for the leader. But what about the not so soft side? Do you think anger is an allowed emotion for a leader? I'm
Absolutely.
very, very curious to know your thoughts on this.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It is an allowed emotion for sure because, um, again, every leader is a human. And there will be situation where you are angry about something. But what is important here to take note of is how are you sharing that emotion?
Hmm.
And it is important to understand for a leader what is the outcome of that emotion at that moment. Again, it's about choosing your battles, right? Is it going to help you that you're angry, so show your emotions and you get your work done? And trust me, you're not going to. And it goes back to the first part that I said, right? Today's work mindset, generations, everything is different, right? I'm not saying that before we didn't have different generations working together. We always had that. But I guess there is a shift in the way people are today. It could be the education system. Maybe, today's Gen Zs feel more empowered. They come with a lot more knowledge. I think you and I will agree when we were, say, interns or where we started our jobs, we were not as inquisitive or curious or
Assertive for that matter.
yeah, exactly. We did not have that kind of a mindset at all. For us, it was, oh, we are at a job. We need to do what we are asked to do, and we get money at the end of the month, and we go spend it somewhere else. We didn't think anything more than that.
Yeah.
Today's generation thinks a lot more than that. So, while anger
Do
is
you
very
think that they're more self aware than what we were?
absolutely,
There's a lot to learn from them.
absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, it's funny that every time I have a conversation with my son at home about anything, it could be sometimes related to work or sometimes just about his studies, I feel he's so aware and he's so sure of what he wants. And I don't think I had, when I was young at his age, I don't know how many ambitions I had, right? But they are still so focused. They want something and they're going to achieve it, and they want to achieve it. That's how it is. So that's why anger, showing of anger, may not be the right way to get your job done. And that's why it's important that you need to have a different level of connect. Again, you're angry, you don't want to show it, so you don't give the right kind of feedback to your team.
Yeah.
True. There has to be a fine balance. So I stand by all the leaders today because I think it's not an easy journey they go through. It's not, while they try to be their authentic selves at all times, it's great to be.
Okay.
It also requires a different level of trust that they have to build with their teams
Yeah.
to be able to understand that now is the time I can show my anger, and now is the time that, I have to make this understanding go in a different way. So that goes back to building that relationship with the team, with the people around you, with fellow leaders. Sometimes I feel fellow leaders need to understand each other's emotions more than actually your teams, right? Your team, you spend so much time with that over time, you know them, they know you, but fellow leaders don't work with you all the time, but yet they are an integral part of your journey forward. So it is so important to understand the emotional state, emotional aura of, what you want and what you don't want with your fellow leaders too.
It's just making sure that you're not making it a wrestling match or turning into that cranky boss, because at the end of the day, no one wants to come back, come to office to a cranky boss, right? So awesome. Um, just going to my next question, I'll want a little bit of your personal story over here. What is it that, what is that one habit you have to ensure that you're staying emotionally strong? Because staying emotionally strong, I'm sure for a leader, is a constant journey, right? It's just not like a one day thing. So, what is your habit that you've cultivated over these many years of being leader?
Wow, that's a tough one. A habit is tough because a habit you create over several years of practice, right? You can't just say something today and tomorrow that becomes a habit. And I think for me, let me see, I think just being mindful, I feel the fact that I'm mindful of the fact that today can be the worst day, today can be the best day, today I can have some success, today I can have failures. I think that acceptance has always worked for me. And I think it helps me stay calm. Um, Leadership journey as you grow, as much as when you're at the starting level, you thrive to be a leader, you want to get there and you want to do all this great stuff, but at some point I feel it does become lonely, and that's when I think you need to take help. It's important that when you reach a certain stage, you acknowledge the fact that maybe some insights from others, maybe having a mentor can help you. I totally rely on my husband, who is a great mentor for me in my leadership journey. I think um, I have bothered him enough to learn a lot from him, but I think that has helped me stay very real. Um, and it also helps if that mentor is very critical of your journey. Someone has to be there to tell you you're going right and you're going wrong. And while at that moment it may not sound nice, but the fact is you learn out of that. Yes. So to keep a ongoing learning journey is, I think, very important. And the other thing that I wouldn't say a habit, but something that has always worked for me is being an active listener. As a leader, it is so, so important to be a good listener. And I don't think we lay that much emphasis on that. And when I say an active listener, what I mean is you listen with an intent to help. Correct. And a lot of times we listen just with an intent to hear. Listen with an intent to help, not hear. Ask with an intent to understand and not question. And react with an intent to seek a balance instead of perfection. I think that's a very, very important point that a leader should understand through their journey. So I think, yeah, some tidbits there. I think if I have to kind of now go back to the entire conversation we've had and with what you just said, uh, it all trickles down for a leader to be, again, self aware, right? I mean, a leader should know that they can ask for help. A leader should know that they're not perfect. A leader should know that they can fail. And in short, again, to know that they're just human, right? So awesome, Chetna. That's a lot of takeaway in this conversation, and all good things come to an end, and so does this conversation. But I am not going to let you go without one last question. Now, the response to this could be something that people are going to remember you for. So, what is that one simple thing any leaders could do? Like it could just be like putting up your sticky note kind of a habit that they can cultivate, or the change that they can make to, first thing, lead with empathy, to be emotionally aware, and kind of, while doing all of this, also to prioritize their own emotional well-being. So what is your, say, a tip to any leader? Think of this as your mic drop moment. Well, I don't know if this will be the mic drop moment, but probably two things that I'll say that I have always kept in mind in my leadership journey, right? The first one is it's okay to fail. It's okay to not be perfect. Striving for perfection is amazing. Every leader should do it. And it's not only leaders, everybody should do it. Correct. But your judging your outcomes to be based on that perfection is something that you should have control over. So it's okay to fail. It's okay to seek help. I've told this before. Have a mentor. Have someone that you can go to. Because as you go up, it can get lonely, but at the same time, when you have the right people around you, life is easy as a leader.
Right.
And the second thing is, and I lay a lot of emphasis on this, is drive with passion, because your passion trickles down to your team. If you do not show the passion in the job that you do, I don't think your people will see it. So if you love what you do, show it. Show it every single day. I think that's what has worked for me. I hope it works for somebody else who's watching this too.
I think that was awesome, Chetna. If I look at it, it's simple, it's honest, and I mean, it's done well. It could be such a game changer for every leader out there, right? So, well, thank you so much once again for being a part of this conversation, Chetna. You just today made us realize that being human is just one of those superpowers for any leader out there. So, please continue being the rock star that you are. So thank you once again. Well, folks, that's a wrap. For any leader out there, please remember, lead with your heart, but balance it with your mind. And please keep your anger tucked away somewhere safe. And yes, while doing all of this, please do not forget to prioritize your own mental well being and emotional well being, of course. And yes, for every listener out there, like I said earlier, please go check on your leaders. Just ask that one question: is everything all right with you? That's going to make a lot of difference. We'd love to hear from you. If you think you have a unique leadership journey, please don't forget to comment below. And also, if you like the content today, don't forget to share and subscribe. Goodbye until next time.